Actually, one thing I could talk about I think is pretty interesting, and I hadn't really considered before. I think it was Chris Lanza, who was actually following the first game, brought up a good question, and that's just want to check that we have enough antidotes. Okay. The question is regarding, well, enchanted projectile weapons and the projectiles themselves. I guess specifically, what's sufficient to overcome, let's say, a creature that's immune to normal weapons? Do you need a, let's just use the example of slings and bullets. Do you need a +1 sling? Do you need +1 bullets? Do you need both? And I know what it is in 3rd edition. They're, well, two things. I'm gonna get confused here. Alright. In 3rd edition,
how may I assist?
I guess what you call the launcher, the sling itself, and the missile, any bonuses stack. So a +1 sling and a +1 bullet will stack for +2 to attack and +2 to damage. But I wasn't sure what it was for 2nd edition. And actually, back in 3rd edition, the one exception to that is when it comes to purposes
I am yours to command
of damage reduction. Then you only consider the properties of the missile. Damage reduction being things like a creature that might be immune to so many points of a particular elemental damage type. And that kind of makes sense. Yeah, so I looked through the player's handbook. I couldn't really find a satisfactory answer on that. Well, one, does it stack in 2nd edition? And are there any exceptions to it? For example, what about a creature that's immune to normal weapons? So I directed my question to Samwise7 RPG, who was kind enough to refer me to Master of Flowers, who is, I guess, a D&D veteran DM of about 30 years. So he was kind enough to help me with that question. Sure enough, there is an answer. Well, there's sort of an answer in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but it's not very explicit, and it's buried in a section devoted to magical equipment. And it's really up to, I guess, the DM to interpret it the way they want.
The group needs me?
But I think the consensus is that
Sire?
They certainly do indeed stack.
Something amiss?
So, +1 sling and +1 bullets.
Yes?
Will grant +2 to
How may I
attack
assist?
and +2 on damage. But there is a clause, I guess, and that's that only the ammunition is considered for purposes of bypassing immunities, essentially. So just like 3rd edition, where it's not considered for damage resistance, if, let's say, a creature is immune to normal weapons, it's not good enough just to have a +1 sling. You need those enchanted bullets. But it's just something I hadn't really thought about, because when you play these games, you just think, well, the better the enhancement, the better it has to be, and you just go on that assumption. But you don't necessarily think about how are these combining, or are they necessarily combining? And I'm pretty sure, I didn't actually verify it, but that's actually how it's implemented here in the game. That they will stack, at least. Although I think there's a bug which hopefully is addressed with the core fixes. That I think just the spell, protection from normal missiles, will actually protect the caster from +1 arrows, which is quite a bug. I guess in the caster's favor, but a lot of enemies seem to cast protection from normal missiles. So it's something to consider if you're not playing a game with those fixes applied. But actually, Master of Flowers brought up a good point too. In 2nd edition and back then, things like magical arrows were quite rare. You would never find them in a bundle. They would be, you might discover a single magical arrow among treasure, and a party would typically hoard things like that for special fights. So you'd never have things like this, where, 40-some +3 arrows. It's just, that wouldn't be that common. Alright. Again, picking up quite a bit of stuff, and I hope everything I just talked about made sense. I probably confused it a bit. You know what, I think we'll leave with all these antidotes, maybe with Laconia.
I am yours to command.
Yeah, presumably we'll be able to just simply walk into the Lich's lair. I guess we're not looking for a ward stone. I have to admit, Master Brennan, I think, was the person we saw who was granted an audience with Sendai in that cutscene. Not quite sure who that was. Again, it wasn't necessarily in service to Balthazar. Still thinking about Balthazar himself. Wondering if it can really be a ball spawn, because then what on earth would Melisande be planning? Because, of course, to pave the way for the return of Bhaal, all ball spawn have to be slain. So it wouldn't make sense necessarily that Balthazar would be a ball spawn. Unless Melisandre's plans are maybe more grand. She wants Balthazar maybe to be ascend to the Throne of Bhaal himself. That's not quite making sense yet.
The group needs me?
Wow,
Sire?
that's a lot of stuff.
Something amiss?
Yeah, no shortage of antidotes. Depending also whether we're prepared to face a Lich. I don't see why we couldn't at least give it a shot. Well, I mean, what I mean is without preparing at all more spells.
Yes?
And this Spelljammer ship that we've seen as we came in, it's also interesting. Wondering if that's Sendai's personal Spelljammer. Wouldn't that be interesting? Maybe faced with our arrival, maybe she'll try to escape on it. I kind of wish that, of course we had the planar sphere, but I kind of wish we had some kind of side quest with the Spelljammer ship. That'd be interesting to have to pursue Sendai across the plains on her Spelljammer ship. Lilly, of course, could use the planar sphere, maybe. If it would only accept one of these hearts that she's tried thus far. Man.
How may I assist?
Boy, by the time we pick everything up, I think the next drow patrol is going to come by.
I am yours to command.
We'll have to do it all over again. But the elven chain certainly is worth it. I think we're just lucky that everyone knows enough to know what they are. Actually, at this point, could probably just afford to pay for the identification. Hey, look at all these antidotes. Man. All right. I think actually we should probably store all the antidotes in boy. Maybe its own potion case. 21 and 39. We have to have an empty one somewhere. Of course we don't. Yeah, this is probably full of healing potions. Holy cow. Alright, just leave it like that. Okay.
The group needs me?
Oh, still one more suit.
Sire?
Okay.
Something amiss?
Actually, I'm not even sure how long it's been. You know what? I think I'll probably pause it here. I think next time we'll be looking into the Lich's Lair, because I'm not sure how involved that might be. If it's formidable enough, it might be multiple attempts before we're able to do anything. So I think we'll do that next time. But watching, thanks, and later.